محمد وعجل فرجهم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. صلوات. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا من خزائن علومك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. My brothers, my sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Someone asked me a few days ago, what makes a community successful? How do we look at a community and know that it's successful? And with Islam, the measurement of success is very difficult to determine because it's not based on the outer result. So some people might think that when we have a lot of people in the majlis, then it was successful. They might think that if we received a lot of donations, it was successful. If we had thousands of YouTube views, it was successful. If everyone talked about it, it was successful. In a way, those things are successful about the program we organize, sure. But does it mean that the community is successful? And is that program, does that determine the success of the community? According to Islam, the number one pillar of prayer before the other pillars. You know, you have some pillars. If you don't do them in salat, then you can't fix the salat. You have to redo it. Like takbir al-ihram, right? Takbiratul ihram, if you don't say Allahu Akbar, you didn't start the prayer. You have to do that. Or let's say you missed ruku' and you went into 2 sujuds, you missed it. You have to redo it. Or you did 2 of them, you can't. You know what the first pillar is? The intention. You have to intend that you're going to pray. Niyyah. It's not enough to just not eat and not drink. You have to intend that you're going to fast qurbatan lillahi ta'ala. Otherwise, you didn't actually begin the fast. Niyyah, intention. Islamic spirituality is encompassed in niyyah, in the intention. And it's very difficult to determine the niyyah of someone, let alone an entire community. Ayatollah Burujurdi, it said when he was on his deathbed, he was crying. This is the man who was the leader of the Shia for decades, in the last century. Before Sayyid al-Khou'i and Sayyid al-Imam. He was crying on his deathbed. And his students were around him. And he said, why are you crying? Look how much you did. You built all these hospitals, these houses, you taught all these students, you taught all these people. why are you crying? You should be smiling that you're going now to Jannah for sure. Yo Ayatollah Burujurdi. And he cried, he said, I don't know if that was all sincere. I pray it's sincere. You see, Muslims, we're very humble about our sincerity, as we should be. We don't know. That's the key of sincerity. You can't say, I'm sincere. That's dangerous. It has to be a question. If you ask anyone, the greatest mystic before he left this world, Sheikh Bahjat, are you sincere? I pray I am, inshallah, I hope so. He might cry. He might start crying. You might start something sincerely. You might start a path or a project sincerely, and then you lose the sincerity later on. You don't realize it. So sincerity is something that has to be checked every day, every day. Maybe I started sincerely. Am I still sincere? Allah sends you tests, and sometimes those tests don't look like tests. Sometimes they look like blessings. I remember when I first started the path, I left my family, I left my mother and father, I had no wife, I lived on $1,000 a month when I started Hawza, Afwan, $1,000 a year, Afwan. So much less than $1,000 a month. I wish that was the case. $1,000 a year is what I lived on. I would eat hummus and leban and get by like this, just so I can study. At the time, I felt sincere, because I said, I don't have anything. Ya Allah, I'm coming to you sincerely. I swear, I feel I'm coming to you. I don't want anything. And then Allah sends a wife, and Allah sends people who love you, and Allah makes you known to the people, and Allah sends you rizq and money, and then you get all of this. And you still hope to be sincere, because these are all blessings. And we thank Allah for the blessings. But now, am I doing it so people can like me? Am I doing it so people can say nice things? Am I doing it for fame? Am I doing it for money? Now they're tests as well. So then someone has to constantly protect their heart. Say, no, I want to stay sincere. I don't want to lose this. Islamic spirituality is encompassed in sincerity. There was a brother who in the first year of Hawza was with me, and we cried together, we ate together, majlis together, studied together, read together, everything together. And he had a lot of questions. The difference was, some of us, when we read a narration and it sounds strange to us, we say, maybe I don't understand it right now. I'm not going to say it's wrong, I don't know. But I definitely didn't understand it, so let me step back. I'm not on that level yet. Maybe later I'll understand it. I've been studying for 10 years in the Hawza. There are still questions I have. There are still things I'm waiting to understand. That's normal. I'm waiting. I'm carrying it. I still ask the question. I'm still searching. It's okay. Actually, I find it beautiful. Some people find it scary, but it's a yearning of knowledge. But my friend who I was with, he had these questions, but he couldn't wait. So he would go, he'd ask, he didn't receive the answer. You don't always receive the answer straight away. You have to keep asking for a long time. And the question evolves. He wanted the answer now. So when he didn't receive the answer after 3 months, he left Hawza. Okay, you don't have to stay in Hawza. Soon enough, he left Islam. Then he started to write statuses on Facebook about how misguided Islam is, and about how people who are Muslim are judgmental and blah, blah, blah. He had some bad experiences, it seems. Then he applied it onto Islam. Now that hurt. I was like, wow, how did you go from being in the circle that we were in, where we wanted to really help and preach about Islam, to becoming someone who hates Islam and is an enemy of Islam? And in my heart, I still had love for him, because we've shared so many memories, and I was hoping he'll come back. So I kept my hand extended in case. And one day he saw me with his friends, his new atheist friends. And when they saw me, I was alone. I was taking a walk. It's like when a shark sees blood. They said, okay, he's by himself. Let's go attack him and debate him. So they came, they started talking, giving me all these questions. Why this, why that, Islam this, Islam that. I said, before we have the discussion, I just want one thing from you, my brother. One thing. Just be sincere. Just try to be sincere. Because I know if he's sincere, if he's really asking these questions and saying these things, even these things of hate, sincerely, not from a biased place, then there's a chance that he can sincerely come back towards truth because he's searching. Maybe Allah has mercy on him, sends him some guidance because he's being sincere about it. But when you're dishonest, you can't find truth. And there's no mercy when you're dishonest, when you're doing it on purpose, because you're coming from a place of hate or bias or prejudice. So I said, just be sincere. You know what he said? I am sincere. And that's when I knew he's not sincere. When you say, I am sincere, Habibi, that's when you're not sincere. It's like when they say, in my humble opinion. It's not so humble, right? I mean, I know that's a figure of speech, but that's what it's like. So we have to take care of our hearts. Why did I say this? Because I know that today is a day and a night when we don't have as many people as we usually have. Okay? May Allah bless everyone who was here yesterday and all these other nights. But right now, there aren't that many of us. So would this be deemed an unsuccessful majlis? Not at all. Because any place where the musibah of Aba Abdullah is recited, there are always two people present, always. Lady Zahra alayhi salam, and Sahib al-Asr, Imam al-Mahdi, Ajra ta'ala farajuhu al-Sharif. This is their musibah. Even if it's just one of us, two of us, three of us, we sit and we remember Aba Abdullah, and if our hearts are sincere, it's more successful than the biggest majlis in Karbala, if that majlis was not sincere. Because al-qalb arshur rahman, the heart is the shrine of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the heart of the believer, qalb al-mu'min. So I wanted to thank you, my brothers, my sisters, for having me these last few nights. You were so kind and understanding, and I appreciate that so much. You've hosted me. You've been so loving towards me, and I hope I can meet you all again. I see so many lovely faces. Sayyid Subtain, it was a pleasure to meet you. Nabil, Yusuf, Abbas, Jawad, Kasra, Sami, everyone here. The ones I know their names, the ones I don't know their names. Every night when I came, you gave me love of Ahlul Bayt. When I looked at you, when you cried, you made me cry. So I just want to thank you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam Ali alayhi salam gave us a great gift, a really great gift. He gave us each other. There aren't people on earth like us. You know, you can go and read far and wide, but people who may not know each other's names sit down and then cry together, cry, like their parents just died. They feel the same pain, and I relate to you and you relate to me. We know what we're feeling, and I don't know your name. But if someone came through the door right now and wanted to harm you, I would jump in the way. And you would jump in the way to protect me too. What is that? What's that called? I had watched a video the other day. They were talking about the prison, in the prison system right now, how Muslims are very powerful in the prison system because they stick together, you know, with the Shia or Sunni, that they stick together. That if you find 6 men who are Muslim beating on someone who wasn't, then the non-Muslim will just walk by. But if you find 6 men who are non-Muslim beating on one Muslim guy, you'd find a second Muslim that walks by and sees it, he jumps in. Akhi, he just jumps in to help the brother. And that togetherness is very important. And that's even without the tears. How so with the tears and with the pain in the heart? That you feel utter love towards your brother and your sister. So this is a great gift that Imam Ali alayhi salam gave us. That we are his Shia and we are his followers. And this is something that we are to cherish and protect with our lives. Because wherever we go, as far as we go from the masjid, there's going to be no place like the masjid. like the community where we come back to, and we are together like this, from all different places, different ethnicities, different lands. We come together and we share more together than anyone else out there. And if our siblings are not on the path, we share more together than we do with our siblings. So this is deeper than even blood. That's what was intended from the very beginning. These last 2 weeks we've been speaking about the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I wanted to wrap up with a few words. We spoke about Jihadul Akbar, the greater jihad, the combat against the lower self. And that this is incumbent and obligatory on the one who wants to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we shared a lot of different advice like musharata, muraqabah, muhasabah, to place a condition on the self, to observe the self, to take the self into account. We applied Sheikh Bahjat's advice about reading Quran every day, Ziyarat al-Jami' al-Kabira, about Salatul Layl, that no one can make it without Salatul Layl. These are very high up. But even if we can't do that, to choose one, just one act that I want to master and create a malaka of one act that I begin with now and one act that I want to leave. And to commit to that, even if it's small, even if that one act is Tasbih al-Zahra alayhi salam, to do that every single day and master it. Something small that I do consistently. So my growth in Islam is based on consistency. And to leave the sin. And it's possible to leave the sin, and we explained how that is. And we had a map, right? Ilm, Iman, Arfan. With ilm we begin, because Imam Ali says to Kumail, Ya Kumail, ma min harakatin illa wa anta muhtajun fiha ila al-ma'rifah. Ya Kumail, there is no movement you can make except that you are in need of knowledge before it. There's no growth. There's no movement. And if you don't move, you're dead. So you must move. To move, you have to have knowledge. So we said, knowledge is obligatory on all of us if we want to move towards God. And the more time we commit to knowledge, and knowledge consists of reading, listening, engaging in discussion, any sort of mental stimulation. But also there's knowledge of the believer that is through worship and devotion Allah sends into the heart as nur, as light. And we want to commit, ideally, we want to get to a place we commit 3 hours of our life every day. And if we can't, 2 hours. And if we can't, 1 hour. And if we can't, half an hour. But to begin that commitment. And Ashura is the best time to start that commitment, that promise to yourself. But that knowledge is not enough, because knowledge is not always applied. There has to be a level beyond knowledge, which is Iman. We spoke about Iman. We cited the story of Yunus and Iman. Iman is when knowledge is rooted in the heart. So it's knowledge applied. To get to Iman, I must continuously act. Amal salih. Apply my knowledge. Good action, good action, good action. Then I have Iman. The knowledge is then rooted in my heart. But that's also not always enough, because Iman is blind. And sometimes, even if I'm a mu'min and I'm doing what Allah wants from me, it's a very good level to be at. It's the level most of us, inshallah, can reach. Sometimes your desire or your anger or love of this world is heavier than Iman. You might have level 60 of love of the world and level 50 Iman. And so you'll be tempted, you'll be taken away. So we want something even higher than that. We have to be foolproof. And to be foolproof, we need tazkiyatun nafs, the purification of the self, which is the musharata, muraqah, muhasabah. By doing that continuously over long periods of time, inshallah, if we apply everything, literally, this is now the highest level. This is what most people don't get to. If we apply everything we spoke about, then we get to a level called Arfan. And Arfan is when you see the truth. Your Iman is no longer blind. It's not scary. It's not kufr. It's not blasphemy. It's literally, you're seeing things as they are. Allahumma arin al-ashya kama hiya. Lord, show me things as they truly are. That is the dua of our blessed Prophet. He's the one saying it. To see things as they are. The same way, when Zulaykha tried to seduce Yusuf, and Yusuf says, Ma'adallah, innahu rabbi ahsana mathwai. Yusuf says, he's my Lord, he's honored me. And she still came towards him. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. She tried to seduce him. He would have fallen had he not seen the burhan of his Lord. The burhan is the arfan that we want to see, the highest level. So we want that. Now, as we are approaching that level of seeing truth as it is, we need to be applying that tazkiyah of tafakkur and tadabbur constantly. Our worship has to evolve beyond ritual. Ritual is important, but it must evolve. With ritual, we must pair it with contemplation and reflection. Tafakkur and tadabbur. And we have to, if we want to grow. Tafakkur on the Quran, tadabbur on the Quran, tadabbur on life, to contemplate upon it. Like when the man came and asked Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, he said, Allah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He said, Ya Hussain, I wish to sin. Is there a way that I can sin? Can you make it okay for me because I'm addicted to a certain action? I don't want to keep doing something that's a transgression. So can we make this thing halal, or is there a way that this thing can not be a sin? Imam says, sure, I have a way for you. He says, how? He said, go to a place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot see you. So he gave him an answer. He gave him a way. This won't be a sin anymore. If Allah can't see you, it's not a sin. So the man said, but Allah can see everything. He can see me, He can see the whole world. He goes, so, you know Allah can see you, and you still want to sin? As you're doing the sin, Allah's watching you, you want to do it? So he made him think, tafakkur. You see how he's making him think? He doesn't tell him an answer, no. Then the man said, is there another way? He said, sure, there's another way. Eat from rizq that's not from Allah. But he said, all rizq is from Allah. Is there another way? Sure. Live in a land that does not belong to Allah. But all land belongs to Allah. Is there another way? The Imam says, you know Allah can see you, and you're living in His land, and you're eating from His rizq, and you still want to sin? Okay, I'll give you this one. When Malik al-Maut comes to take you, say, I'm not going. When the angel of death comes to take your soul, say, no. He said, but I can't stand up to the angel of death. He goes, you can't stand up to the angel of death, but you want to stand up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the man said, you know what? I'm not going to sin. Because there's nothing, no option. But how did he tell him? That's really the point of the narration. He didn't just say, no, it's impossible. Like, a sin is a sin, just don't do it. He wants him to consider, to reflect, to contemplate. Allah gave me everything. Allah sees me. Allah sees everything I do. I live in Allah's earth. I live on the earth. I live in His land. The angel of death will come to me one day and I'll have no choice. So he's making him reflect on major points. You see how the Imam would want someone slowly, he brings him to the path of spirituality through tafakkur and tadabbur. So this has to be something now we start practicing in our Islam. Yani, a practice of Islam without tafakkur and tadabbur it's so robotic. And on the first day I said, what's the difference between me, someone who claims Islam, and someone who doesn't? I have a beard, he doesn't have a beard. I wear a ring, he doesn't wear a ring. I move up and down 5 times a day, he doesn't. I don't eat pork, and I don't drink wine. So I'm a Muslim. Is that enough? Is that the difference? If that's the difference, that's poor. That's so poor. That's what Islam is. That's so poor. If I see the world the same way he sees the world, all I think about all day is money, 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 or whatever else it is, house, car, woman, whatever it is. If that's all that's on my mind, but I look like this, that doesn't change me. It's not a difference between him and I. Because that's all that's on his mind. So who is your God? So the people of spirituality, through tafakkur and tadabbur, they start to understand La ilaha illallah. And they really start to identify, Ya Allah, you are my Lord, and no one else other than you. Now every action you commit, every time you pray with a sincere heart, and every time you come towards tafakkur and tadabbur, and every time you engage in reciting the Quran or crying for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam or getting together or whatever it is that you do, good actions. And likewise, every time you commit a bad action or a sin, there is an effect occurring not after you die, but right now. Right now. There is, if you want, a parallel world to our world. Some call it barzakh, the world you go to when you die. Some call it alamul mithal, right? The same thing, or alamul khayal, the world of the imaginary, or the real world, the world of truth. That world doesn't occur after we die. That's the place people go to when they die. But it doesn't begin then. That world is now. And to say you go there when you die is not really accurate because you're already there. Let me explain. When you look in a mirror, you see your reflection? Okay. There is a real you that right now is in barzakh. Its appearance is based on what you do in this world. So this world is more of a reflection than that world. That world more accurately depicts who you are than this world. That's the world of truth. When you dream, your dream state usually, sometimes it's because you ate fried chicken before you sleep, but sometimes you experience alamul mithal. Sometimes, when you get visits from people who are dead. That kind of dream state, the way things are kind of blurry, that's what we can understand. We don't know too much about that world, but we can begin to understand that world through that. Dimensions of physics are different. It's not the same width, height, length, depth, gravity, it's different. But it's now. Every time you do a small sin, you commit a small sin, it affects the real you. There. Now. You're becoming there now. Every time you do something beautiful, you plant a tree there now. Every time you commit a sin, you start a little fire there now. It's happening now. It's not happening after you die. When you die, you're born for real. When you die, you realize who you really are. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, "Al-nasu niyam fa-idha matu intabahu." People are dead. When they die, that's when they wake up. Because you see the real world. Sometimes someone is so beautiful in this world. In Hollywood, you're a supermodel. Beautiful. But the heart might be so dark. In the real world, she or he is actually a hideous beast. Already. That's who they really are. That's how they look. Sometimes they're animals. But when they die, they appear in their real state. And everyone knows it's them. You see the real them and the real you. It's scary. Because once you die, that's it. That's who you are. Whilst right now you can still mend and create the real you. So you create you. Who you're going to be forever. You have a body over there. It's a different body. Your body dies, but you don't die. You live forever. And you will continue forever. Forever and ever. Alamat Tabatabai says, إِنَّكَ مَخْلُوقٌ أَبَدِي فَعْمَلْ لِلْأَبَدِيَّ. You are an infinite creation. Act with infinity in mind. Don't act about these 60, 70 years are nothing. You're going to be around forever. Then what's the difference between Allah and I? Big difference. Allah relies on Himself to exist. You rely on Him to exist.
But He's everlasting.
He's everlasting. So are you. You're everlasting through Him. He's everlasting through Himself. Through Himself. Big difference. You are reliant upon Him, but you're going to live forever. So I ask you, how do you want to live forever? What do you want to experience as you live forever? When you die and you visit barzakh, you're going to see creatures that you created. Creatures that keep you company. Sometimes they're beautiful, angelic creatures. And they keep you company. And you ask them, who are you? Say, I am Surat al-Kawthar. You used to recite me every day. I am Ziyarat Ashura. I am the tear of Abu Abdullah. I'm here now. You created him or her, this angel. Your creation. It's you. You're interacting with yourself. Or you might be surrounded by hideous, beastly creatures barking at you. And when you ask them to leave you alone and who they are, they say, but you created us. I am such and such sin. I am that which you looked at. I am that which you heard. I am that which you said. And I'm with you forever. You're going to discover who you really are and who other people really are. That's why in the du'as, the imams, when they say in the du'as, don't humiliate me on that day in front of everyone. Because they're going to see who I really am. The imam is the most beautiful of creation. With us, there's a risk that we become humiliated when the real us comes out. But we might be in this dunya someone who doesn't look too beautiful on the outside, but has the most beautiful heart that in the next world everyone will be attracted to and want to be with and sit with. The idea though is that it's not happening after you die. It happens now. So there's a parallel mirror world, literally. If you give, there's a narration about even the way in which you give the glance of the eye to your mother or your father, how that affects you. If you look at your mother and father in a disrespectful way, just that, it affected the real you. Now understand, this is beyond haram and halal. This is everything you do. This is everything you are. Disciplined, not disciplined, honest, dishonest. Any little thing you do creates, is a part of the real you, your characteristics. So it's not just sin. Your characteristics delve into the real you. So, this path is a serious path. And you're creating yourself whether you like it or not. It's part of being here. So, let us be intentional about how we are creating ourselves. And that is why it is so important to know yourself. من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه. He who knows himself knows Allah. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء Ayatullah Tabrizi gives advice to the one who wants to cry for Abu Abdullah. He says, with all honesty and sincerity in your heart, feel the following words and say them to Abu Abdullah. O my master, Ya Abu Abdullah, I wish all these calamities would have befallen me instead of you. I would have sacrificed myself for you if I was there, Mawla. I wish I was there, Mawla. I wish my family and my children would have been killed and taken as prisoners instead of your family and instead of your children. I wish the arrow of Karbala would have pierced the neck of my child and not your child. I wish my son was cut to pieces and not your son. I wish my liver would have felt the pain of the thirst instead of you, Mawla. I wish the world would have started to look dark in my eyes instead of your eyes, Ya Mawla. I wish the wounds would have cut my body and not your body. I wish the arrow struck my chest and not your chest, Mawla. I wish they took my life and not your life, Mawla. I would have given my woman for your woman, Mawla. I would have given my neck for your neck, Mawla. I wish shimmer sat on my chest and not your chest, Mawla. I wish I was the one who stood alone instead of you, Mawla. How can I sit with my infant child in my arms and give my child water whenever my child cries? Whenever I give my child milk, I remember your asrar, Ya Mawla. Because your son cried, but you could not bring him any milk. And your baby cried, and you could not bring him water, Mawla. So I will remember your asrar whenever I feed my child. And I wish I was there, Mawla. This is your child, Mawla. When I see my sons and my daughters living their lives, getting married, when I see their smiles, I won't forget the cries of Sukaina. I won't forget the spear in Akbar's chest. I will remember you everywhere I go, Sayyidi. I will remember you whenever water enters my throat, until the day we meet, Mawla. And I ask you as your soldiers asked you, are you proud of me, Mawla? Did I do justice to your tragedy? Did I prove myself that I would have been there with you? I remembered you more than my own mother and my own father, Ya Aba Abdullah. Because I really meant it when I said, Bi Abi anta wa ummi, Ya Aba Abdullah. I wish it was my chest and not your chest that Shimmer sat on. I wish it was my neck and not your neck, Sayyidi. Do you hear my voice? Do you feel the pain in my heart? Sayyidi, just like my Imam, I will weep tears of blood for you until the day we meet in the next world. As-salamu ala al-Hussain wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussain. وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Accept us to be from your caravan, Ya Mawlai. Even though we are 1,000 years too late, allow us to be like the man who came to Karbala late. A man came to Karbala to defend Abu Abdullah on the eve of Ashura. The day after Ashura, the man came to the battlefield and saw the tents. Then he saw blood and he saw soldiers. And he said to the soldiers, are you the soldiers of Imam al-Hussein? Where is Imam Hussein? I have come to defend him. So they told him that the tents belonged to his woman and his children. And then they pointed to the battlefield and said, the body of Hussein lay there. And then a man brought a spear with the head of Abu Abdullah on the spear. When the man saw Imam's head, he began to scream and cry and shout. He began to scream and cry and shout. And he took his sword and he attacked all the men. And then they killed him. Ya Abu Abdullah, allow us to be like the man who came late, because we scream and we cry and we shout your name until death. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa la'natullah ala al-zalimin ila yawm al-qiyamah.